All right. Welcome back, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the exhibition while we took a little break. And I am so excited that we are presenting work and the history of Bisa Washington. So I'm not going to talk. I'm going to let you speak. It's your turn. Let's start with an image.
This is conversation number 3 with me and Colleen, the ultimate archivist.
Oh, hold the mic up to your, there you go, so we can hear you.
Yes, sir. So the photograph is of some of the members, but the mentors of me in a group called Black Woman in Visual Perspective. It's a Black woman artist organization, professional exhibiting artists, which was started by Gladys Grauer, who you see in the gold outfit. This was the occasion of her 75th birthday. And then that's me, and next to me is Alita Caldwell, who is a wonderful artist, and she was at one time principal of Arts High School. And my other mentor and teaching supervisor, Nettie Fournay Thomas. So there were other artists involved in the group, Janet Taylor Pickett, Margaret Kelly, but these are the ones that were my mentors, my particular.
And with your mentors, there was a space that you worked out of, that everybody got together?
Exhibited out of. It wasn't in a studio, it was a gallery. Gladys had a gallery called Art, and I don't know what the anagram is, but anyway, it was on Bergen Street. It was the first woman-run gallery in the city of Newark. And I arrived there in 1979. And these women started me on the path of the artist that I am today, and I thank them. I call them the Great Triad.
And how did you meet them originally?
I met them because Nettie Fournay Thomas was my cooperating teacher when I was doing student teaching at Weequahic High School in Newark. That's how I met them. Nettie was in the group, and she brought me there as her guest.
And then,
so this was Akuaba was our logo, and whenever we had a show, we would have her, and you see it says Black Woman in Visual Perspective, and this was a show at the Newark Library called Celebrations and Ceremonies. And you see Janet Taylor Pickett, Marietta Betty Mays, she's passed away, but she's a great painter.
so how important was the Newark Public Library in working with Black women in visual perspective and showing the work? Is this a one-time thing, or is this something that the library supported?
The museum was more involved in our group than the library. The library was more involved in artist books and zines and pamphlets and catalogs. But anyhow, I also, what I call my first real job was museum educator at the Newark Museum of Art. And I worked for the Junior Museum, and one year Barbara Moriello, who was also a master paper maker and book artist, decided to have a show with all the staff, all the professional artists that worked at the Newark Museum. And there we are. That was the show. 1981. So I began teaching when I graduated with my dream of my teacher's certificate, because I never taught in the public school. I went directly to the museum as museum educator, but then I taught 22 years at Morristown Beard School, and I required my students to keep a journal. And one of the first exercises they had to do was go home and draw their hands. Line drawing, nothing special. And I also knew that if I told them to do it, I had to do it too. So this is one of my drawings. I may have been riding the train to work and drawing. It's a photograph of the actual journal from the year 2000, which, as the song says, was a very good year. And I am a pen and ink lover. I love pen and ink, and I love writing and journaling. It's good therapy. This is about that. I'm not going to call it artist block. I call it getting started. Because once I get started, I'm fine. Then I can't stop. But getting started is the hardest thing, and that's what this journal. So every day before class, before you pick up a pencil or pen, they would have to take turns presenting their drawings and their journaling that they did at home every day. It's called Learning Across the Curriculum. So my work is about my spirit, and my spirit is an African spirit, and I believe in something called Ashe, which literally translated in Yoruba means the power to make things happen. Ashe, A-S-E. So this ocean view is at Haystack Mountain. Haystack Mountain School of Crafts is in Deer Isle, Maine. It's a little mountain which falls into the sea. And you go there and you learn things.
When were you there?
I've been there many times, but this was the year 2000. Again, it was a very good year. And I was there for 3 weeks, and I worked with a sculpture teacher, and his specialty was showing craftsmen how to make armatures and make sculptural forms with whatever medium you used. And at the time, I was a basket maker. And this was one of the first pieces I finished. It's a material called Fiber Flex Supreme, which you can get at Dick Blick. And it's a basket maker's dream because it's recycled paper. It's almost like brown toilet paper wrapped in some kind of non-degradable strip.
And did you start as a basket maker when you started creating work, or did you start drawing, or how did you fall into
I started as a weaver doing tapestry.
And were you using conventional or unconventional materials?
No, I was using yarn and 4 head of wool. And then sometimes heroin trying it's very boring. But when I started doing frame weaving and was taught by a mentor, Ann Dubin, that I could make a double piece on a frame, just the stretchers that we use to stretch canvas. I started doing double weave. So that was the beginning of the pieces that you see in the back here. That my work came off the wall, and my goal always, whether I was crocheting, weaving, wrapping, whatever, tatting, quilting, that it would come off the wall in some way. And I explored a lot of materials to see what would be stiff, but in the end, with that Fiber Flex Supreme, I added sculptural wire. And that's the armature that holds the form that you see there, otherwise it would collapse. It's just fiber paper. But the wire is what makes it hold the shape. So when I went to Haystack, this may have been the second time I went, but I know that I went there to learn how to make paper or to enhance my paper making skills. And the blue that you see here is paper that I made over chicken wire. And then this one is the same thing with a coiled element that my technique might normally use to make a basket. But I use it as an accent or as an armature to hold the normally soft sculpture into a hardened, erect form.
And you mentioned that the person you were working with here, I think you mentioned that you were they were teaching you how to put the fibers on one side of the chicken wire, but you were putting it on both, is that correct?
No, he was teaching us both.
Both.
And you had the deciding factor. But for example, that rectangular tower, I wanted you to look inside, so I didn't want you to see raw chicken wire. So I put handmade paper on both sides. And then there's string, which I plan to weave someday. And the reason this seashell-like form on the left holds that seashell form is because there's wire along the edge and on the bottom under the paper. While the paper was still wet, when I took it off the rack or that frame thing that you use, decal, I put it on there and let it dry. It also shrinks a little, so the shrinking in itself aids in the sculptural enhancement. So this is handmade paper that I bought. It's from Thailand. It's called banana leaf paper. Banana leaf paper comes in all colors, not banana inside. It's the leaf of the banana plant that is implanted in the paper. So I did the same thing. When I ran out of my blue paper, I bought some paper at the art store. As long as it was 100% rag, that was the important thing because I stitch into it and collage it. This is a page from my sketchbook. It's a series. I have a book. I got a grant from Victoria to go to Women's Studio Workshop, if you can ever go there. It's in Kingston, New York. And I did a book called Promise Not to Tell. I made the paper, I designed the images, the graphics, the text, everything. And this was just a poem, because the poem is based on my mother's secrets. And the series is called La Casa de los Secretos de mi Madre. And each secret has a number, like my blue book is secret number 9. Just scribble. But I journal every day. And I love pen and ink. So the pieces that I'm known for as an artist in this region are a series of black sculptural pieces that I brought off the wall. All the black pieces come from a series called War Dress. On the left is a piece called La Sirena de Coro Negra, Song of the Black Siren, the Black Mermaid. This other piece comes from a couple of pieces I did called Tribute to the Martyrs. So Mikey Smith is a dub poet from Jamaica, and he ended up being a martyr because of his poetry, unfortunately. But I was a weaver then, but I took that flat piece that I wove on a big frame loom that was about this tall, and then I did body casts of anybody who would let me. And then I would collage the body parts together. So collage is always big, even when it's sculpture. This is another page from my sketchbook that I made I made a plate, a paper plate for this and did a silk screen. So it's an edition of, say, 10.
So these keys that we see in this print, we also see on some of your work that's hanging in the exhibition. Could you tell us a little bit about the keys and why you're using them?
In every piece, the keys are different. In this piece, this little print is about slavery, the tree of life, the key to wisdom, and the key to freedom. And the piece over there, Angungun, is the key to my legacy, my ancestors, my roots now. That's what the keys in that for. I think is there another one key? Oh, my mom's keys. The piece by the window on the left has, people give me keys. Once I had a key, I had one piece with one key. People would leave boxes of keys on my steps, and I'm a hoarder in recovery. Thank you for your support. This is serious. I'm at step 4 in NA, acknowledging that there's something greater than me, and I am helpless against my addiction. My addiction is I'm an artist and I collect things. I'm in recovery. I go to therapy for that. You better. You don't want to be on TV hoarding buried alive. It's Teresa. Oh my God. She got 2 pounds of yarn, bins of beads. She's been in the factories down there bringing out all this. Yeah. It's the foundation of my madness. It's the foundation of my art. I have to be very careful. So this is was in a show with Janet Taylor Pickett. It was sponsored by Rutgers University. And at the time, I had just finished my big print, which is in the back. Rutgers University had or has a center called the Center for Innovative Paper and Printmaking. And at one time, they give artists a summer residency. Or if you were someone well-known, they might give you more. But I had a summer residency, and my big print was about Martin Luther King, about the continuance of racism and violence, I know. I don't know if you ever heard the story, but somewhere in Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, as fuck down south, a man was tied to the back of the truck and dragged till his body just fell apart on the road. So that's what inspired this print. It's a mandala, which is a ritual thing that can have many forms, from a poster to a tapestry to sand on the floor. But the mandala is based on a Haitian veve, V-E-V-E, veve. And Haitian veves are usually embroidered with beads or made in sand, just like Tibetans make sand paintings. So the veve is for Papa Legba, who opens and closes the road. And it's based on a statement by Martin Luther King. And one of his agape speeches, he speaks of the power of love in the face of cruelty and something, madness, fucking madness. And you see in a technique called sheen colle in the center, it's a photographic image printed on tissue paper, and then it's collaged through the press onto the print. Thank God for studio assistants, master students, whatever. They did all this sheen colle. I went to bed, woke up one morning, and it was done. Because, I don't know how they did it. I was thinking I had to do it by hand with a bone phone. I don't know. But they got paid. So this is a piece that's a combination of my main techniques: weaving, wrapping, and collage. It's in a private collection. I have a collector who's been collecting my work since 1974. She's my primary collector, and most of the work over there is from the collection of her family, Carmelian Toomey. And I'm happy to have all my babies back together. So this is another departure, because I was doing all these black pieces, and what happened was Artists Against Apartheid was an organization here in Newark. I got involved in 1981, and for 10 years, 1981 to 1991, all of my pieces were art against apartheid. And you see one of the original 1981 pieces. It's a war dress for Nelson Mandela. You see it over there. It's the oldest, one of the oldest pieces in the show.
On that piece, the war dress that's over being exhibited, can you maybe talk a little bit about the prayers that are included in the leather, and then also the figures that you're using and the words?
So I had the blessing of having a mentor at Jersey City State College, now known as New Jersey City University, Ben Jones and Chuck Davis. So Ben Jones was very significant in me deciding, even though to get my degree I had to study European art, and I had to smile if I wanted that bead. I didn't ask, well, when I asked about Romeo Bearden, the first time I got an F. But I learned that lesson quick, and I learned about, Raphael and whoever, all of them, Da Vinci. But my work, and the reason I did black pieces, it was very literal. I wanted people to look at, well, I was in love with Louise Nevelson and her boxes. And I do a lot of boxes. I take Clementine boxes. I used to paint them all black, now they're all colors. But I decided that all my pieces would be black as a signature of my rebellion in 1975. My first big show was in 1985. I got a state council grant. So I decided all my pieces would be black. And Artists Against Apartheid, because it was about Africa and black people, it was perfect. And I did that for 10 years. And then in 1985, I got a state council grant. And I said, let me show them I have some versatility here. And I could do something else. And I made Shango Shine. This is my signature of all signature pieces. It's called War Dress. More Rainey led the battle. Ben Jones did a plaster cast for me, so I would always have my face, and that's my face in rubber. My bestie, who's my collector, was pregnant with her youngest child, so I cast her pregnancy. And then I collaged it with weaving and coiling and all other things. Ashe, because I believe art has the ultimate power to make things happen. It's called War Dress. More Rainey led the battle. More Rainey is a true person in Yoruba history. The Yoruba people come from northeast Nigeria since 1979. And so this is one of my major pieces because I'm a book artist, and one of the major influence on my art life has been Faith Ringo, Carol Bayard, and Clarissa Sly. They had a group in the 80s and 90s called Coast to Coast, a Woman of Color Artist Book Project. This was our first catalog, but then we did a box project. And then we did 3 projects together. I still see these artists, but Coast to Coast doesn't really exhibit anymore. So Faith Ringo owns this book because I wanted it to be more lasting than paper. It's woven leather and canvas, and it's beaded. And those are pictures of Mandela that I beaded, and the keys are to open every prison door for every prisoner. That's what the keys in this book. So there's a poem, and I have a little zine where I've used the poem again, and it says, in the event anyone disappears, what will we do? Now that my cousin and people you don't even know, I don't know by heart anymore, is gone, dead, or disappeared. What will we do now that Malcolm and many others are gone? So anyway, the poem is in there painted on the page. So I got a grant to go to the Visual Studies Workshop, which is in Rochester, and I did a zine of this book, paper book.
I think we have some more images of this.
So that's the cover of the original book. It's leather beaded, each page is beaded, each page is beaded. And the poem is called In the Event Anyone Disappears. And there's the poem. I don't know if anybody knows who Amilcar Cabral is. Anybody? Amilcar?
Guinea-Bissau.
Guinea-Bissau. Okay. Before Lumumba was assassinated by the CIA, they took out Amilcar Cabral because he was moving and shaking in Guinea-Bissau. Oh, no. So then they took Lumumba, and then Steve Biko, and on and on and on. But they did not take Mandela. No. In the end, Uhuru Sasa. So this is the poem. And each page is different. This page is the definition of juju, and I cut it, I Xeroxed it, glued it on leather, cut it in strips, and wove it. And it just talks about the root of the word comes from a Hausa word, dejuju, and what it means. So that's that page, and this page on the left is red. So this page is called Tribute to the Martyrs. So we pay tribute to those who were, you know, castrated, hung, blah, blah, blah. But it's a new day. And on, you know, you have to self-defense by any means necessary. So this was made in 1990, 1991 maybe. So.
Can you bring that back one more? Thanks. So I did have a question about the Art Against Apartheid work that was going on in Newark. Could you talk a little bit about not only your work, but what was happening with the group here?
Well, just in terms of Artists Against Apartheid, it started, I believe, in England and moved all over the world. When it got here, for us, the first place it hit was the historically black colleges, and the students was like, oh, fuck no. You giving our hard-earned parents' money to who? To the Kruger Rand, because you want some gold, no? So there were students against apartheid first. There were activists against apartheid. And then somebody somewhere said, oh, we're going to be artists against apartheid. And the art we make is not going to be flowers and still lives and portraits. Nothing wrong with that. Landscapes, we love it. This is how we were trained. This is what we love. Brings us joy, but fuck this, we're doing art against apartheid. But we also had an organization called the National Conference of Artists, which was a black art organization. Our president was Ben Jones. And they said, oh, they had the Artists Against Apartheid from the village come and talk to us. And they came to Willie Coast Gallery, the works. And it was on. We all did art. Everybody did Art Against Apartheid show. Al Jira did. The Newark Museum did. Everybody did. In your studio, you did. So, this was one of my Art Against Apartheid. And I make dolls. And at the time I was in this show, I wasn't making a traditional doll that a child would think of a doll, but this is artist dolls and figurines, so my work came under the figurine part. And it was in Long Island or somewhere, a friend of mine. At the time I was in this show, I was at the Studio Museum doing museum educator, like I had done here at Newark Museum of Art.
I think we have an image of the doll.
Okay, this is a piece that was exhibited and made for Art Against Apartheid at the Works Gallery. There was a show of Artists Against Apartheid. I did a paper silhouette, I stuffed it with raffia. I stitched and stapled the edges of it. And on the picture are martyrs. It's called Tribute to the Martyrs. It no longer exists. It was paper, it got destroyed or recycled something. So there's the 4 little girls right here at the heart chakra. There's Martin, Malcolm, Medgar. Oh, there's so many. And this was before Amadou Diallo. Eleanor Bumpers is on there. So, Tribute to the Martyrs. And there's my big print. One of the great things about the Rutgers program is they make an edition of 40, they give you 10, and they take all the rest and give them to every museum in the state of New Jersey, et cetera, et cetera. And then they keep some in their collection for future exhibition. So it's a wonderful thing. We saw that already. Okay, so I had the pleasure. I have a company now. In my retirement, I have a merch company, a design company called Woo Wear Indigenous. And I like to think that the seeds of my Woo Wear Indigenous were heartily planted by my wonderful exhibition with a woman called Kay Walking Stick. It was me, her, and someone else who, without my glasses, I can't say, but it was a wonderful exhibit at the Summit Art Center in Summit, New Jersey. I think they called it that then, but now it's a Visual Arts Center. But when I don't know what it was called, New Jersey Center for Visual Arts. So I had a exhibit, and the little Ogunda piece actually was made for that exhibit, one of the pieces.
So can you tell us a little bit about Kay Walking Stick and why she was so influential?
Because she's a Native American woman, and she does rebellious landscapes, she does get the fuck off our land in a beautiful landscape that's, it's just, this is it, this is ours. Yes, she took it. But she's a master painter. She's a master painter. Sometimes she adds those sculptural elements, which is what we loved about each other's work. So this piece you'll see in the gallery over there. So what does it say, 1997? Ogunda. So a lot of times, because I'm a hoarder, I do a lot of dumpster diving, I love bulk day, things find me. So the body of this piece is made from the weights, like they call them the doors, the steel doors that are in the stores that come down, they have metal weights. So I get up early to go to the ATM of my favorite bank on Bluefield Avenue, and the chain is broken. At one time there was a law you could only have the open birdcage kind, not the solid metal. So that was all bent up. And the weights were scattered all over. They were covered with what I know now is lead paint. Someone, I think, had tried to break in the bank, and I knew it wasn't CCTV then, but that ATM had a camera, right? I grabbed my little weights and ran. I didn't even use my ATM card. I said, I'm taking this, because I was into metal. I would go on Railroad Avenue and find railroad ties. So that's this background. And the face I found on Railroad Avenue, I have no idea what it is, but it's iron. So I had a thing for iron, and God bless Peters Valley because I took many a blacksmith class there. So there are 3 places, Peters Valley, Women's Studio Workshop, and Haystack Mountain. Haystack Mountain in Deer Island.
I guess that's where we end it.
Ta-da.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Lisa. It's an honor to have you here. Any last remarks? You said
Do
you
you have any questions?
Any questions?
Q&A.
Fabulous, really great.
Thank you.
Wonderful to hear and see your work, and you talk about it.